going on, Breaking Brown family? What's going on? The election is over, but not quite. Now for Stacey Abrams, the election is not over. And one has to wonder whether or not the election should have been over. The election should have been over for Gillum, but we got a lot to talk about. Before we do all that, as we always do, let's do some housekeeping. Please, those of you who are new here or whatever, please please subscribe if you have not subscribed already to the channel. If you are so inclined, please share this with your friends. Please share the video. Please hit that little bell so you can hit that bell real quick, and you get notifications when I come on. Please do that. Please go to subscribetobrown.com and add yourself to my list. That is totally free of charge. I just like to have your email addresses, names, and all that good stuff. And you can go to patreon.com as well, and donate to the channel as well as other places. But we're going to get down to business this evening. And we're going to talk a little bit about, how this moment gives us an avenue to pivot into a new kind of politics, and how it gives us an avenue actually to redefine ourselves in terms of what our politics are, and what our negotiation strategies should be, and what we should have in terms for solidarity, and what solidarity means, and what this caste means, and what Latino means, and what white women mean. In the seriousness of like, it's the year of the women, it's the year of the LGBT. What does that mean, child? So before that, I want to just when we talk about Gillum and all that stuff, and I think we've seen Sean King and some other people talk about how, like, maybe you shouldn't have called it so quick. And here's the reason why. In terms of Abrams, this is what we're looking at. Stacey Abrams, who was running for governor of Georgia, has not conceded the race. Now, regardless of what happens, this is 0.9% in terms of difference, and this is coming from the Secretary of State's office, where where your opponent is still is still the head of, inexplicably. But understand one thing as well. Let's put this up, and let's do some explaining. In terms of, it's what you have to understand. This is from, like I said, this is from the official website. This is from Secretary of State's office. And what you have to really kind of understand, this is what, in terms of a recount versus a runoff, a recount is triggered if she gets within 1 point. And the recounting is in Kemp's office. That's totally not what we want, and it's totally, like I said, inexplicable in terms of any kind of credibility, any kind of what do you call it? In terms of how we have, that's a conflict of interest. A runoff is triggered by Kemp hitting 49.9. If he hits 49.9, I mean, that's what it is. So they're two different things, right? So this is where we are. This is where we are in the game and how the game is being played. But there were a lot of games played. There were a lot of elections lost and won. But I am really focusing. And we saw a lot of local stuff. Where we saw suburbs. We saw a lot of suburbs kind of go Democrat. Then you saw rural areas really double down on Trump. We see localities kind of revolting against whatever they feel is like that national impetus that they don't want. So you see suburban areas kind of ousting, for the most part. There was some differences, but you see suburban areas kind of ousting Republicans because they're pushing back against Trump. You see these rural areas, these Trump voters kind of pushing back against Democrats. So you see the localization of politics in a way. And we always talk about how politics is also about regionality. That's the conversation that we have. Now see what you have to understand when we talk about Kemp, and you talk about this image that we have up here right now. Let me put it up very big so you can see. When we're talking about regionality right here, we're talking about the state of Georgia. This is a statewide race. It's a governor's race. 15,000 votes gets him to 39.9. You know, and you took 49.9. Each percent is like 40,000. That's it. So each tenth is about 4,000, and you see that vote count. If you've been watching that vote count, it's been moving. Now, see, that's what one of the things that I like about Abrams is she's a tactician. Like this isn't new. This isn't new. She's been in this ball game. She knows what to do, how to do it, and how to move it. And that's where we are here. But that brings me to a kind of broader conversation that we have to have. You know, when we talk about Kemp, and a lot of people, and I'm going to address it. A lot of people in the comments had a problem with me saying that, or me saying that you should vote, or that you should vote for Stacey Abrams if you're in Georgia, or Gillum if you're in Florida. A lot of people had a problem with that in the comments, and I read the comments, and I saw what I saw. And here's the thing. I am not on Medicaid, but I know a lot of people, I know a lot of y'all are in red states, and your mama needs something, your auntie need a surgery, your brother, you know, he had a gunshot, he got he got problems now, whatever. Somebody got diabetes, somebody got high blood pressure, heart failure, all this stuff. All I'm saying is that when I talk to you about your group interest, that's one part of it. But when I talk to you about your specific individual interest, that's another part of it. And I'm telling you that if somebody is promising to expand Medicaid, which was like the general Democratic theme, I give you that is not a specifically black agenda. I get that, and you are totally right. And in terms of what we need, in terms of community uplift, in terms of our wealth, we do need a black agenda, and we need transformational wealth. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, what we need at the moment is a placeholder. What you need at the moment is make sure that you can breathe long enough to convince people, because political education takes time. That's nothing that happens overnight. It doesn't happen by 2 videos or 3 videos. That takes time to grow. That is a long and arduous process. Trust me, I know. So what you have is that we haven't had the time to grow and be the kind of constituency that we need to be to actually have the kind of transformative politics that we want to have. So right now you need a placeholder, and you need your mama to have that surgery, right? And like I said, this would be a different conversation in Georgia. Even for me, this would be a different conversation if Abrams was running against an establishment Republican, as opposed to like somebody who's running around with saws and is the like Kemp is the exemplification of the ascension of white mediocrity. That's what he is. He's a mediocre person. When you really look at, and he's also very corrupt. When you look at the Associated Press reported more than 50,000 voters were stuck in a pending status because their registration forms did not precisely match personal information on government databases under a system that can flag voters simply because of a missing hyphen. Nearly 70% of the registrants were African American, the news agency found. Like, for me, this is a specific targeting of my community. That's not the same thing as, like you said, well, Yvette, this is just like Obama. No, I can't say that, because Obama ran against 2 establishment Republicans. This is not who this man is. And I think, like I said, what we need, what we need is somebody, right? So you have a lot of, when you look at a lot of these DACA states, when you look at California will just tell the federal government, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna pick up these people for immigration. We're not gonna do it. Now, I don't agree with that, but what you need in your state is somebody who will say that. So if Trump decides or whatever, I'm gonna cut school lunch by this much, you need somebody who's like, I'm not implementing that. I'm giving the babies their food. I'm not doing it. I'll fight it in court. That's what you need. See, Kim strikes me as the kind of person who will get drunk at a bar one night and be like, you know what, they need to work for their food. You know, Republicans are good for coming out, especially the right wing is good for coming out for random ideas about how the children need to clean up the schools, to get food, and all kind of weird, feudal, Lord, King stuff. That's not what I want. And because America's going so far to the right so quick, I need a placeholder right here. Hold it right here. While you're holding it, though, I can help build a constituency and build a group with some political education that can give me something more. But I can't do it right now because we're not there. There is a problem with this racelessness in terms of these candidates, and we talked about it, and we're going to talk about it some more. But you have to understand. Hear me when I say one of the things that I always said. One of the things that I always said is that politics is about being nimble and it's about being able to pivot. You don't have just one idea that you stick to. I decide I ain't gonna never vote. You can't do that. You gotta move with the wind. You gotta be like water. Bruce Lee said that. Like, you gotta be like water. That's what you gotta do. You can't just be like a tree, you're gonna fall. You gotta be able to maneuver in all situations. So I mean, even as we're talking about Kemp and mediocrity, this is a guy who set it up so that we weren't supposed to vote and then got to the thing and he couldn't vote. Just a nincompoop. You failed at your job. You failed for yourself. Votes didn't come in. The votes were coming in from all kinds of states last night before Georgia because you're not good at your job. But white life means that you don't have to be good at your job. You can get a better job even though you have failed at your own job. And that's what we see. That's what we see in him. That is whiteness in this country. There's nothing whiter than him proving that he's not good at his job on election day, and he's still like he should have. That alone should have just been the end of him. Like, he's finished. He can't even vote at his own precinct. His ID says invalid, and he's the Secretary of State. What kind of moron are we working with here? That should have been what it was. But this is where we are, and he's allowed to do whatever he thinks is necessary, and we don't know what he stole or if he stole anything or how he stole it. We don't know. There's no way to know at this juncture. But what I'm telling you is that this is so much of this election was emblematic to me, especially in the South, especially when we talk about Florida, especially and I know Florida is sort of amalgamation where you have red and then you have Miami and you have also, but it's sort of an amalgamation of these two races. I think you see race a lot, as opposed to, we can talk about the places where the CBC got messed up because they supported a white candidate and the black candidate won. There was a lot of stuff that went on. There were governorships that did get flipped. But what I'm talking about American DOS right now. I'm not talking about other groups right now. I'm talking about us and our politics and statewide elections. And what is keeping us and what losing should do in terms of how we should feel about, well, if we lose, if Abrams loses and Gillum, yes, he goes down in flames, what does that say about how we should change our politics? Yes, we should have voted for both of them, but how do we pivot now? We can't say the same way. Just like I pivoted to voting for you, I got to pivot in another direction now. I'm pivoting. I play on my toes. I don't play slew-footed. I play on my toes. You always got to play on your toes. Don't you do it on your heels. So this is what we're talking about. When we talk about Gillum, it's the same kind of thing when we talk about Abrams and her story. Like, these are people who didn't really, and I'm giving you this for a reason, because we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to it in a way that may make you uncomfortable, but it is what it is. So I just want to give you a little bit of his backstory as we have this conversation. His father, the son of a chauffeur who followed his employer from Chicago to Miami, was a construction worker who sold produce on the street corner when work was sparse, and flowers outside the cemetery on Saturdays. His mother, one of 16 kids to a family of Georgia sharecroppers from Clyattville, woke up at 4 a.m. on weekdays to drive kids to school in the evening, and to drive a school bus, and in the evening transported church parishioners. On the weekends, her sons says she set up a space at the Hialeah flea market and sell clothes bought cheap at a warehouse. Over summers, when school let out, she worked as a presser at a dry cleaners. Okay? Let's continue, shall we? We didn't come home and check the mailbox or the front door. We went to the meter on the side of the house to see if the lights were on, said Chuck Gillum, one of Andrew's older brothers who remembers sheepishly buying groceries at the store with food stamps. We shared school clothes. So we go home and get out the pants and shoes because your brother had to wear these same pants and shoes the next day. Let me tell you, I don't know if there's anything more emblematic of black life than that. Abrams didn't come from anything too. She came from a two-parent family too, but either of them came from anything, right? In terms of that's what we are in this country. We're a caste. And that also led to what we talked about before. Abrams owing all the money in terms of her tuition, in terms of the IRS, in terms of all her debt, trying to help her family. Remember, money flows down, money don't flow up. Inheritance flows down, it don't flow up. But that's what she did in that article. You all remember that Fortune, or I think it was a Fortune article, where she talked about not being ashamed of that debt. Well, you see that Gillum had some of the same problems, right? And he got caught up in something that may have affected his race as well. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all of it. We don't have a choice. But the one thing I want to talk about before we get to that, I want to talk about white women. Now, these are exit polls. This is all new, but we all look at exit polls. That's what we do. That's what happens. And when you look at exit polls, what you find is that white women talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, that's not really who they are. Now, we can even go to I'm going to go through 3 charts really quick. I'm going to go to the O'Rourke. Remember, O'Rourke was running to unseat Ted Cruz in the Senate race, and we're going to look, just look at this with me, and we're going to come back to it. Now, you have white women. For O'Rourke, 39%. That's it. Now, Gillum, go to the chart for white women again and look at what you have, right? No majorities. Now understand you have Stacey Abrams. Now, understand Stacey Abrams' campaign. She campaigned on education. Education is supposed to be a sort of bedrock, especially for white women, especially for any woman with kids. You say, I'm going to educate your child. I'm on Medicaid expansion. I'm educating your child. I'm doing this. White women were 24% in the column for Abrams, 76% in the column for Kemp. Please understand when I say this. Now compare this to you can see black men. I can move it down a little bit. You can see black women. When I say this, please understand that it is supposed to. People keep telling us. People keep telling me, and people keep telling you the same thing. That somehow being a woman it's supposed to matter across the board. And you see on the TV when you turn, this was the year of the woman. Women got elected in record numbers. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that women got elected in record numbers? Not that they do this. For what? See, what we have to understand, and feel me on this, family. Feel me and hear me on this. We have to understand that with white women, there is no women in terms of politics. You go to New York, you go not Manhattan, but you go to a poor part of New York, and they always talking about white women when they say women. They ain't talking about us. You go to a poor part of New York, you have a different woman with a different set of politics, right? But it goes even further. There's no such thing as a white woman. No. Well, what do you mean? The whole feminism movement seems to me an effort by white women to get more of the wealth out of their white household. It had nothing to do with anybody else. Understand this. Women are connected white women are connected to their husbands, not just in terms of love and matrimony. They're connected in terms of law. When you talk about estate tax, when you talk about all of that, and they're not going to let any of that go to do what's right or to have a good policy that's black, right? Or to have a black person or American DOS person in office. They are unwilling to divorce themselves from their husbands. So they should be seen not as white people, not as white men, not as white women. They should be seen as white families who are bound by law. You know, you should, if you want to understand more about this, Dr. Tommy Curry's Man Not book is a very good primer to understand and get a basic understanding of what I'm saying. Because when you talk about my problem with black women talking about feminism is that feminism would require for black men and white men to have some kind of alignment together in terms of their wealth and their position, and it doesn't happen. So I don't understand when you see these numbers. Stacey Abrams ain't our woman. Who said that? Go look it up. Ain't our woman. Is she not a woman? So if this whole woman thing mattered, especially since Stacey Abrams' campaign, as I said before, was very middle of the road liberal, wasn't racial, wasn't negative, it was middle. Why did y'all come out for her? But y'all want me to see some kind of value in womanhood in general. Well, we both have ovaries. Hear me roar. How? See, you have to understand that there is no women's vote. Like, that's just stupid. There is no women's vote. And like, this the black vote and this is the women's vote. As if black women aren't women. So the black vote and the women's vote, as if we're two different, what? Huh? What's going on? So like, we don't really count in terms of the vote, but you want to act like what? There are two votes. There are two votes. There is no women's vote. And there is no value in these women. You have to come up with a different construct. You just have to. There's no way to look at that number in terms of how many of those, in terms of how overwhelmingly those white women went for Kemp as opposed to Abrams, and not understand that there is no natural alliance between black women and white women. No other way to look at it. Because I was reading this interview and I can't remember the name of it. Oh, it escapes me. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't mean to bring it up tonight. But it said, like, white women are the constant gardeners of racism. See, we don't think of them necessarily as racist because the white men are the one out there saying outlandish stuff and yelling and hollering. But they're the ones who make sure their kids don't have to be next to these other kids and that they can stay a distance away. And they're the ones like Paula Deen who will feed you a piece of pie and feed you some catfish off a recipe they stole from somebody black, allegedly. Right? They'll do all that and smile in your face and offer you sweet tea. But when they get in that voting box, they're going to vote against everything that makes your life work. You are not an ally. And we've never required you to be an ally. We've never, ever, as black women, made demands or the kind of demands that should have been made of white women. Y'all remember that Viola Davis story where the white woman actually, the white actress, they were on the same movie, and the white actress actually had to get her pay up, Viola Davis's pay right, and the same as hers, and that's what black women. That's what we should need. We should be demanding that of white women. I should be on your head. Why are you getting paid more than me? Why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Why do you have so much more inheritance than me? What's going on with this? Why in the world am I aligning myself with you when we have a black woman who's done everything right? Whether or not you like her politics or whatever. Minority, went to this white schools, minority leader, all of this stuff. And then she gets there and y'all just say, y'all don't see no alliance. So why should I? Why shouldn't I just call it for what it is? You're a white family. You're the same as your white husband. You are a reflection of your white husband and he is a reflection of you. These people are voting as a family. They're not voting as women and men. So how are you going to see them as women and men when they're not voting as women and men? They live as one financial unit. They don't live as like woman, wife, and husband or what. They live as one financial unit, and they think and they move as a unit. That's a con. It's the biggest con. That's why white women should never have gotten affirmative action. Because the only thing you do is take your affirmative action back home to your white husband, and everybody laughs, and we don't get anything. There are lessons from this election. There are lessons from this election. And y'all didn't do that better. Like, understand something when you look at this. Like, this is the Gillum. Y'all didn't do that better, much better. Y'all 51% for DeSantis. Only 47% for Gillum. He gave y'all all kinds of stuff. No, that wasn't enough. But understand something. I want to bring this chart up. I want to bring this up really, really big for 1 second because I want to show you something. Look at this chart. Now, look at one thing. White women, 76% for Kemp. White men, 73%. The white women were worse than the white men. They had a higher percentage of going for Kemp than their husbands did. How can you have an alliance with that group? I want to know how you have an alliance with that group. Now let's take it here. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you another story. I got another story to tell. Understand that it's not just white women. It's not just white women, no. What do you mean, Yvette? You talked about it's not just. It's Latinos too. Latinos may as well be white. Well, what are you talking about? Well, let's bring up this chart one more time, shall we? This is the Gillum DeSantis chart again, right? But if you scroll all the way down, you see Latino men and Latino women. Give a look at the men for 1 second. The men split 52 to 46. The 46% of the Latino men in the DeSantis Gillum, according to these exit polls, voted for DeSantis. 38% of the women. Understand, I don't know how, when you look at that kind of split, and first of all, hold on, wait a minute. Before I say that, let me just show you. Like, this man, like Andrew Gillum did all kind of stuff to try to show that he was on board with everything that he thought that Latinos were on board for. He was on. DACA, you want DACA? I give you DACA. You want whatever? I give you immigration. Let the border open. Let the border open. Everything. And there was still no solidarity, dear. So so tell me again, when you look at this number, like the white women number, the 51% is right along the same thing as the Latino men number. In terms of voting for DeSantis over Gillum. How are these people allies? I don't understand what we're talking about. They're the same as the white women. Understand that, like, this whole Crayola politics has gotten us in quite a pickle, people, because when you look at Latinos, Hispanics, these people come everywhere from Nicaragua, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala. They come from all kinds of places. They don't have one kind of, we're all Latino. That's not what they're doing. And so it's stupid. See, we don't understand as American DOs. We have a lineage that connects us back to slavery, and that's why we are the same. So when we see people, we think, well, they Latinos, they the same, and they brown. No, these people ain't thinking about you, and they don't want to access blackness. They're here to access whiteness. And what they're trying to do, as we have showed time and time again, more Hispanics are declaring themselves white. So what are you doing? Aligning yourselves with people who don't even align with their own self. They don't even stay aligned with being Latino. They're trying to declare themselves white. So you out here trying to protect people. You out here, I'm protecting my Latinos brothers. You out here trying to protect people who want to be white from white people. Wait a minute. You protecting people who want to access whiteness and be white from white people. You protecting them from Trump and right wingers and we gonna stick in it together. You protecting them from the people they want to be. How does that make sense? How? This is from this article, more Hispanics are declaring themselves white. Let me just show this. The data provide new evidence consistent with the theory that Hispanics may assimilate as white Americans, like the Italians or the Irish, who are not universally considered to be white. It is particularly significant that the shift toward white identification withstood a decade of debate over immigration and the country's exploding Hispanic population, which might have been expected to inculcate or reinforce a sense of Hispanic identity or draw attention to divisions that remain between Hispanics and non-Hispanic white Americans. Research suggests that Hispanics who have experienced discrimination are less likely to identify as white. Let's go to the next piece. The data also call into question whether America is destined to become a so-called minority majority, where whites represent a minority of the nation's population. Those projections assume that Hispanics aren't white. But if Hispanics ultimately identify as white Americans, then whites will remain the majority for the foreseeable future. Look at it, understand, read it, and weep. Read it and weep. Because you have to understand what this means. There's no tie that binds them like there's a tie that binds us. And if there's no tie that binds them together, how is there a tie that binds us to them? Understand what I'm saying? If they're doing all this stuff, declaring white and trying to access whiteness while some of them decide they don't want to, they want to stay brown or whatever we're doing today. That's not our life. That's not how we live. That's not our history in this country. How are we tying ourselves to them? And then why are we tying ourselves to anybody who immigrated here? We're here. We don't tie ourselves to nobody. If you want to tie yourselves to us, you come and ask permission. But we shouldn't be tying ourselves to any particular group. Don't make no sense. It doesn't make any sense. And understand something. I want to make this very clear. America is not a melting pot. America is not a melting pot. America is a place where everybody, white, brown, black, come to make themselves white. America is not a place where people come to be melded or melt together or melt with brown people or descendants of slaves. People come here to make themselves white. They leave their countries and they don't come and leave their family and everybody they love behind until they can get them back through chain migration. They don't come here for that. They come here to make themselves white. Ain't nobody trying to align with you. Nobody's trying to put themselves in the same group as us. Why are we running? And see, what happens is in terms of our politics and how I said we have to pivot. We have to pivot on immigration, especially in the South, but everywhere, because it's bad for us. It's bad for American DOS across the board. And you have to be able to make that case without being xenophobic. We have to be able to do that. Because what we keep doing, what we're doing right now is we're otherizing ourselves by taking ourselves away from our Americanness in a country that we built and aligning ourselves with whoever immigrates here that's brown. And the only thing that the immigrants do, the brown immigrant we talk about, they use us as an entryway and a doormat into America and become white while we stay black. So we embrace you, open arms, like we have known you forever, and fight for you to be American, and then give you a generation or whatever, maybe shorter, depending on how dark you are. You claim white, and you gone, and you done did what you wanted to do, which is maneuver yourself back into whiteness, and we still black, we still on the bottom. But since some more brown people gonna come, we're gonna do the same stupid stuff over again. We're gonna embrace them and hug them tight, and they're gonna do the same thing. Give them a generation or two, they gonna become white, we still black. And I don't even think it takes a generation no more. If you can talk that talk, it ain't even about melanin. Like I said before, it's not even about melanin. Indians don't come over here and work at Google and all these places and get considered. Oh my God, discriminated against. No, they're considered like they are already white. Like I saw that when I saw the doctor that was a American DOS doctor who said that who they questioned her credentials on a Delta flight, and she said, I think they do this for all minorities. And I want to say, child, is you crazy? Like if an Asian or an Indian was on that flight and they were helping someone, nobody would come up 10, 12 times and ask, are you really a doctor? Because you look like a dumb Negro. Like that's for you. That's not for them. And that's because of the legacy of slavery in this country. That's not for them. That's not for them. Like you have to understand what this is, and you have to understand that certain things are for you, and I might say are for us, right? And certain things are for everybody else. And everybody else, all minorities are not alike, and we don't all get treated the same. We get asked, are you really a doctor, or are you just a Negro playing pretend? That's not what happens with us, though. And so you have to understand, you have to be able to understand that, yeah, we're different. And we're different in very, 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 very meaningful ways. And if we can't make that pivot, pivot, then we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a real problem. And what I would say is, we can't. I don't even know how we got here. Because here's the thing. When I talk about immigration, what I'm telling you is that we cannot expect to, we got this whole coalition stuff going on. What we really expect, like when I looked at those Abrams numbers, right? It was very crazy to me because it was like, let me put them back up. I'm gonna put this back up. Hold on 1 second for me. Let me just put this back up because this was amazing to me in a way. Like, you got 24% of white men versus 73% for Kemp, and you got 24% white women versus 76% for Kemp. Like, listen, I'm telling you something. We can't, that's why we need whiteness to implode. You can't expect to win these white states without winning more white people. All this, I'm going to get a bunch of people who ain't the majority of people in Georgia is white people. But the whole thing is I'm going to get all the brown people and a few black. That's not how you're going to do it. You got to get some white people. And the way you get some white people is through sane immigration policy. Listen, I'm not no open borders person. I believe that we have to have a policy put in place that actually where we're America first. And you got to tell that redneck in the face, we're America first. I agree with that part of it because guess what, redneck? My people built this country too. I'm with you. You got to form a different alliance. The alliance that we're using right now, people say, oh, well, it came close. Listen, I agree. Stacey Abrams deserves a bunch of credit because she's gotten closer than any Democrat challenger to a Republican in my recent memory. But close ain't no cigars. And I think you have to, because it only comes every 4 years. You get one shot. And I wish it was horseshoes, but closeness only counts in horseshoes. We can't do it this way. Democrats have to come to the other way on immigration. You gotta come over here on immigration. That's the only way I see these. I think it works in the Midwest too. And I think you can actually make the case elsewhere in terms of if you really want to speak for your group and how it depresses wages. And same thing that Democrats have been saying a long time before the Democratic Party shut everybody down because they needed immigrant votes. I think you can make that case, especially being the group, especially as an American DOS person, especially in terms of what our group deals with, being how many unskilled people that we have that have to compete against new immigrants. So hold on, you put me out here and you ain't give me no reparations, you ain't give me nothing, but now I got to compete against new immigrants who are unskilled and scared and desperate. That's my life. In the richest country in the world I built. I think you can make that case easy. But you got to be willing to make it, and you got to be willing to lose some people. I don't see how else you do it though. We're otherizing ourselves. And we have like these raceless candidates, really. Like it's wonderful, But like you didn't win, and you didn't say anything. Like Stacey Abrams did not win yet. Maybe something happens because we seeing that margin, but you were not confrontational. You education and healthcare, and they were still like no. So what we even saw with Obama is that he won, but amongst the Republicans there was always this fear that like he's gonna do something for black people. So doing something for us makes you un-American or something. And I think we have to confront that head on. We can't keep doing this piecemeal stuff. And we gotta tell white voters, listen, we're doing this because it's good for Americans. And that includes us in terms of immigration. We won't sane immigration policy because it's good for us, including you too. We agree with you on this thing. This real big thing that you care about, we agree on reform. We agree on strong borders. We agree on Americans first because we're American. I think we have to embrace being American in a way that we haven't been comfortable with. But I think we have to get comfortable. I don't see any way around it. And the thing that happens, and I'll say this last, and I want everybody to understand, as I come to this close, that I'm not trying to say anything mean about anybody. And when I talk about Gillum, who ran for governor of Florida, when I talk about him, I'm not talking. I just want everybody to understand when I speak about him, I speak about him with a degree of admiration in terms of where he come from. His mama, came from a sharecropper family. My mama did too. I understand that, but I also understand the limitations of that. But what kind of limitations are you talking about, Yvette? What do you mean limitations? Well, I think one of the things that we don't like to own as a group is our limitations. Even when we talk about, it's funny when we talk about, or we don't even want to own like what another group is and the limitations that they have, and they're not really a group. So when I talk about Latinos, and I say they're not the same, everybody else says that they're all our brothers and sisters. Well, remember when the Kavanaugh clerk they said she flashed the white power sign? And it was kind of odd, given the history, right? Remember, and then there was a whole history of her in terms of she is Jewish and of Mexican heritage and the descendants of Holocaust survivors. And and wants to bring white supremacy to the Supreme Court. You got to understand that one thing don't make everything. And so when I talk about Gillum, I don't think we understand the limitations of what America has done to us. So it was white supremacy creeps into your life in a lot of different ways. So the vote and the white women and all that stuff, that's one thing. The other thing is you have a FBI investigation, right? So I asked myself, like, what does that come from? And you see this, like, you see this thing, and it's very interesting. It says, in the terms of how food and a benefit sort of led to what happened. And let me just read this part. People who attended barely remember the scene, but the food and spirits prepared and provided by Corey's one-on-one restaurant and Mint Lounge and bill to out-of-town developer Mike Miller would prove memorable. The quiet event remained unremarkable for more than 2 years, and it could have been nothing more than a footnote in the historic campaign of Florida's would-be first African-American governor had Corey not turned on Gillum, his former friend, in the fallout of an FBI investigation. Just days before Tuesday's election, Corey dumped emails appearing to show that Miller, now known as an undercover agent, had been sent a bill and a thank you note for catering. Gillum's team seemed to hope that the scandal would fade, but instead Corey, a man whom Gillum once called brother in a text message, only to 7 times after he was named in an FBI subpoena, began releasing damaging emails and texts as early voting started. Ironically, Corey, who was a constant presence in Tallahassee politics and Gillum's life, was never around his campaign for governor until the end, when he seemed to try to tank it. Then the week that Hurricane Michael hit North Florida, DeSantis and the Republican Party of Florida released a devastating commercial that claimed Gillum was running from the FBI and suggested that trips he'd taken to Costa Rica with lobbyist friends and to New York with FBI agents were illegal. Gillum's campaign sent a cease and desist letters to every TV station in the state. They were unsuccessful pulling the ad off the air. As wary Panhandle residents watched TV for news of the approaching hurricane, they saw Gillum calm, collected, and reassuring. And then in commercial breaks, they saw Gillum appearing ominous and unreliable. This is something. The FBI's interest in Tallahassee, which seemed to revolve around the activities of a public redevelopment agency, was especially damaging to Gillum because his campaign was based so heavily on his personality, life story, and charm. For more than a year, Gillum was his campaign's greatest asset, using his gift of gab to sell voters on a liberal agenda. Who does that sound like? Sounds kind of like Obama, not in terms of politics, but in terms of like what you have is your personality. You don't have anything around you that protects you. And you need a black agenda, right? It's something that we can bite our teeth into, that if something happens, we want it so bad that we be like, oh, it's on the popping now because I was promised some stuff and y'all ain't finna take this away from me. This is what it is. But let me just go into it. They noted that Corey's attorney, this is why he backed away from the Corey dude. Chris Kice once served as Governor Scott's 2010 transition team. DeSantis in the opponent's first debate. See, understand that the Corey dude is now seen. The reason he backed away, he seems like a Republican. Well, how didn't you know that beforehand? It sounds like a setup. Okay. DeSantis in the opponent's first debate before the documents were released appeared to try and set a trap, questioning Gillum about Hamilton tickets like a prosecutor. In their final debate, after emails and texts had come out, DeSantis called Gillum a liar. Already sputtering from emails and text messages that show that he took a boat ride with Miller and Corey, a New York agent of 2016, and went to a Broadway showing of Hamilton on a ticket purchased by Miller. That's the FBI agent. Gillum's campaign lost its rudder and stalled. Now, understand something. I want you to understand a lot of things about what you just read, and it's not just that. He had a house, he didn't claim the debt. And then one of the things that stood out for me when I read about it is that he got the house like that. He got this. When you talk about $400,000 in mortgages, the mortgage was approved by Hancock Bank, which financed 95% of the $424,000 purchase price. Gillum bought the house in September 2014, only a month after he became mayor. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because part of what you're watching in terms of the FBI, part of what you're seeing, and I don't know if you know that you're seeing it, is the burden and the cost of American DOS life. That is the cost of blackness. See, if you're Trump and your daddy left you all that money, right, you don't need to go nowhere with a lobbyist, right? If you got somebody who has a connect to the Hamilton tickets, you don't have to take tickets from somebody. You can just go, hey, don't so-and-so still work in the theater? Yeah, tell him I want them Hamilton tickets and I'm going to get him next time. Because you got something to give and y'all have something to exchange and you got money anyway. Because your daddy, like Trump, left you a bunch of money. You in a pickle in America, though. And the FBI will clink you up. You in a pickle in America if you don't have anything. And America has left us in a space where we have nothing. And they have not, when there was what did I say last time? The greatest transfer of wealth. The New Deal. And you go before that to the Homestead Act, all of that, we were intentionally locked out. We had no opportunity to build wealth. We were the thing used by people to build wealth. We were less than people. So understand that when you see these kinds of investigations and when you see that kind of thing, you got to understand, his mama came from sharecroppers. And his daddy didn't have nothing. He was a chauffeur and followed somebody and then had an alcohol problem because of the burden of blackness. Understand that all that burden is what makes you not be able to pay for the stuff you got to pay for to stay out of this stuff. And if you can, you don't even got nobody to call to be like, hey man, can you help me get out of this? You don't have no social capital. You don't have nobody. So really and truthfully, candidates, you're going to have to start doing more to wrap yourself in blackness because American DOS behind you and saying, no, leave him alone is all you got. You ain't got nothing else. You ain't got nobody at the FBI. You ain't got nobody, no senator, no congressman that can be like, I'm sure he didn't do that. We should look into that. I'm sure. Well, he's be careful with him now. We can investigate. We got to investigate. But his daddy is friends with Senator so-and-so and Congressman so-and-so. And he got a 4-star general uncle in the Marines. So we can investigate, but be wary. Don't think those conversations don't happen. They do. And we don't know why he conceded so soon. Stacey Abrams still out here because she told you about her debt up front and she ain't played no kind of games with no money as far as we know. I'm not playing them kind of games. So she can stay and fight this fight. We don't know why you had to concede. We don't know what kind of conversations we had. These people are vicious. You don't know what happened behind closed doors. You don't know who said what to who. We're not gonna bring full charges as long as you need to just let this go. Or somebody could tell you you're gonna be prosecuted. So you want us to snatch you out of the governor's mansion, or you want to just concede tonight? You don't know, this is the FBI you're talking about, man. And then you're put in a position where you have to be basically as a DOS, American DOS politician, you have to be like a monk. You really do. Like I was telling a friend on the phone, like you couldn't give me Hamilton tickets today. And I don't have no constituency, I don't have nothing. You're not gonna come back to me 5 years. Yeah, I gave Yvette Hamilton ticket and kiss my child. No, I'm all right. I'm good. Thank you. I'm good, love. Thank you. I don't even like the theater. You want me to buy you a steak? I like water. You got some water? Got lemon? That's it. I mean, but you have to understand how awful that is to be put in that position after your people built this country. Like your ancestors built this country. And everything. And then after that, there was no credit for that. What we did got was subjugation. Right? And oppression for generations. And now you had a steak and some stuff and and all kinds of stuff, and they coming back on you. And you didn't know the person who was paying for the steak, that out-of-state lobbyist who was paying for the filet mignon, he FBI. And you can't know all the rules. I remember when they changed the rules back when I was working on Capitol Hill. Something like you can have the drink, but you can't have the food, and you can have the food. Hey, listen, I just wouldn't go. I can't remember all that. I don't know. I can have one thing, maybe an appetizer, but I can't have the other thing. But I can't have the meal. I can't have what? Well, I don't know. I can't. I just won't go. I don't know. I don't understand the rule. I don't understand how to tell the congressman the rules, because I don't understand the rules myself. It's too much. He should just pay for his own food too, because it's just too much. And so, this is what happens. Like, Abrams has been around for a while. If you're in Georgia, you know of her. Whether or not you like her politics, you know of her. Like, use quick ups Tallahassee mayor. Like, I don't know if you got your footing right. I don't know if you were in it that long, right, and have that long of history, and just kind of work your way diligently for decades. Like, that has to over a decade. I don't know, but I know that the cost of coming from slaves is a steep cost. I know that right now both of y'all caught up in that. 2 American DOS candidates we have right now, both caught up in the cost of being American DOS. And that's where we are. And not only is that where we are, that's who we are. So, as usual, Breaking Bread fans, we're going to get ready to go to break. But this is something. I think we have to have, like I said, I think we have to have an agenda for ourselves. I think this was kind of a placeholder, but I think we need to be prepared for that agenda. I don't think it's just like, well, we need an agenda. No, it's bigger than that. Like, you have to have the constituency for the agenda. But I want to let you all have your say. Don't want to talk too long. So I'm going to go quick break, 3 or 4 minutes, come back, and we'll take some calls. what's going on, fam? We about to go to the calls. I think I got a familiar one in here. I think I got one. But let me go. Y'all already know who it is. Y'all already done talked him up. Let me go to 202.
Hey, hold on, man. That music was jamming, you man.
I try. I do try.
Where you get this music from? I was over here.
I try to keep people during the break.
That's a good post-election music. Hey, man. Hey, so, alright, so, yeah, it's good all this as usual. So, Yvette, we went to bed niggas and we woke up niggas. I think we did niggas after the election, or did they vote that away? Was that voted? Or did we got greater citizenship? Did we get greater citizenship? Did we?
Alexander, I don't know. I don't think we got nothing.
Oh no! Okay. So we weren't voting for our citizenship. We were just kind of voting on other people. Okay, I was just kind of getting it. I didn't understand. All right, so look. All right, so first of all, let me say this. I want to be wrong about a lot of stuff I say, but unfortunately, we wind up in the same predicament. That we often we put our faith in these ballots, and we actually believe that things are going to change, and often, they don't. Or if they do, it's nothing but minuscule crumbs. But let me say something about Gillum for a minute. So,
okay.
I pissed off a lot of my family friends a few weeks back, and I said Gillum is not going to win. And I said he's not going to win, nor should he win. And they got very upset when I said that. And I said that because of what I knew then about those Hamilton tickets. I knew then about the mortgage fiasco. I knew about when the FBI launched the investigation. And I said then he's not ready for prime time. You cannot make amateur, rookie mistakes like that.
No.
And whenever I see black people doing things like that, Yvette, I just think they white. I mean, how do you think you can just do something? I mean, look, how many examples have we had of politics? We had, right here in D.C., we had Prince George's County executive go to jail off of him and his wife off of something like that. We had Kwame Kilpatrick. We know Kasim Reed in Atlanta is under investigation. I mean, how many times we have to see it? Even you said something a while back that white people punish black recklessness with a hammer.
Ooh, yes, that's true.
So you can't, the fact that you out here thinking you could take free tickets, it says something to me about your awareness of who and what you are and the threat you represent to white supremacy down there. So you're right to suggest the quick conceding of the race, all that speaks volumes about, his candidacy. So I had predicted that he was going to lose some time ago. I just didn't think he was ready for prime time, and I didn't think he was taking, that serious. And the other part about that, we got to get out of this falling for people who talk good, man. We got to follow me. In that case, you ain't nothing. But I'm serious, Yvette. Like,
no, you're right.
Pimping politics. This pimping politics where we a dude can smooth talk us in our ear, and we just kiki and caca and fall for that stuff, man. You got to be careful about people who are too polished. This dude broke the 48 laws of power. Law number 40. Beware of the free lunch, baby. Don't ever take anything from anybody free because there's a cost to it. They are going to at some time expect that favor that they did for you come due. Now let's move on to Miss Abrams. Now Stacey's in a very interesting situation, but I think this whole, I don't think it's going to happen. But I was hoping that this appeals court is going to force him to recuse himself from a potential recount. That's going to be very interesting. That has the potential to go to the Supreme Court, if they let it. But I think she's come very close Coast, although I don't think her candidacy is going to mean much for black people, I'm much more impressed by your girl. I think she won. Yvette, what's Lucy? What's her name?
Oh, Lucy McBeth. How is she more radical than Abrams though? I don't see her. I don't see her
as more radical than Abrams, but I do. I hate saying this because I just hate all this symbolism. But the fact that she was elected on this whole campaigning on the death of her son, who was killed by this racist white man at the gas station, that narrative propelled her to office.
But hold on. Let me stop. I know people gonna get mad. They be like, "Don't interrupt Alexander." But let me just say this, Alexander. You have in Congress John Lewis, a man who was propelled to Congress by the civil rights movement,
I know he ain't. I know he's gonna get me.
And he ain't nothing. So I don't know how much that matters.
Well, the thing is, I do believe that she will be a progressive vote, and I put Karen Handel. I don't even really know if people understand.
Handel's awful.
Politics is very similar to Kemp, so I kind of look at it as a vote for her, Lucy as a vote against Karen Handel, because I understand
same way I look at Abrams.
She's in that group of white women that you're talking about. But let me add something. Just leave you guys with this on this. When you're judging your politicians, you need to judge them. One thing you need to judge them by is their ability to dot I's and cross T's. Don't ever elect anybody who doesn't pay attention to detail. One of the reasons why I felt Hillary Clinton, it was problematic for her to be elected is because now we've got two elections, Yvette, that have come down to two penises associated with Hillary Clinton. The first, of course, with George Bush's rise to power off of Bill Clinton and his screwing Monica Lewinsky, and he has never owned up to the fact that he thought he was just screwing an intern and he was actually screwing the nation, because as a consequence of his actions, you wind up getting George Bush, who put us in 2 world wars. A lot of people got killed. The economy got tanked. The other penis that was responsible, gave rise to Trump, was Anthony Weiner. Remember, Yvette?
Oh, I remember him. That was awful.
They was investigating, and when they investigated him and the little porn stuff, I guess he was sharing with a teenage girl, that stuff came back on a laptop that had emails from Hillary Clinton's server. So here you got a second picture. You got not paying attention to detail, and that stuff can always keep you out. And I'll leave you guys on this last thing. We are on this immigrant thing. I really hope you stay on this and hammer it home, because I really don't think a lot of black people are in the public square really understanding what that is about. The 14th Amendment, which is where the natural born citizen issue came from. People don't realize that the 14th Amendment is being hijacked by immigrants in the same way that affirmative action is being hijacked by immigrants. Because the natural born citizen clause was the clause that was used to bring black people into citizenship after slavery. That was what they used to make all of us citizens. It was never intended for immigrants to be able to use that for this whole anchor baby thing. And so I just believe that that's just another way that immigrants, the whole, the natural born citizen thing was never meant for immigration.
No, it wasn't. They couldn't have foreseen that.
To make black DOS people full citizens. So I just wanted to hit you guys with that.
Well, as always, Alexander, as always, thank you.
All right, y'all be easy now.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, as always. Woo! Yeah. A lot of truth to that right there. You got to think on it. Relax yourself into it. I'm going right through. I'm trying to get through to some more people. So I'm going to 973. 973. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey,
hello.
What's going on, Yvette? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? What's up?
Yeah, hey, what's up? This is Carl out in New Jersey. I just want to say, I got to thank you guys Breaking Brown family, Tone, and other black DOS thought leaders who, just kind of like equip us with the information, because it's a rough job when we're basically challenging a real uneducated electorate, as we're still learning. I just want to say, I think that it's very important after this election, to revisit Fred Hampton. I remember a while ago you played a clip of the importance of black people having a political education. Yeah. Before we even, enter the halls of Congress or these city hall, these city hall chambers. Because it was just real interesting, conversating with family members and people on social media, as the election in New Jersey was real interesting, because you had a Senate race, you had in my district you had a Congress Congress race, but the interesting race was the Senate race, and it was Bob Menendez, who in 2015 was federally indicted and had a Republican running against him who supports Trump, who was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. So it wasn't really much to choose from. And the disrespect, and to go back into what we talk about, a political education, Bob Menendez really didn't run anything. I mean, run on anything. Only thing he basically ran on is, I'm going to go to Washington and stop Trump. So, and the fact that he's a Democrat, when conversating with other DOS, you couldn't even really question his policy, because the fear-mongering that the Democrats have stirred up in black DOS people, the fear of Trump. So it's like, if you're not really in support of any Democratic candidate, you surely have to be in favor of Trump or not voting in general. And even when, with my grandmother, I had a conversation with her, because I basically I basically presented some real interesting questions, and I realized how black people, when they go to the voting polls, they're going to the voting polls, and they're going to the voting polls raceless. Here it is, my grandmother, who is in her 70s, she's saying, we got to stop Trump, because look what he's doing to the immigrants. I'm like, Grandma, look what's going on with the policies concerning us. And she said to me, we can't worry about that black stuff. That black
stuff is your whole life. That black stuff, understand that black stuff is your whole life. That's it.
Right. So that's kind of like what we're dealing with. I have people on social media unfollow me, because, and we also, and I'm gonna close with this, let some other people get in. We let these celebrities like Charlamagne the God, did a segment of Donkey of the Day. Anybody who didn't vote was a donkey. We had Oprah Winfrey invoking the ancestors, and so it's kind of funny how that rhetoric started to basically enter the mouths of the DOS electorate without any context. So I had to kind of like push back on the ancestor thing, because I'm like, listen here, our ancestors didn't die for the right to vote. We was fighting for liberation, and the vote was a means to an end.
Yep.
And again, and I'm like, listen, how dare Oprah Winfrey come and evoke the ancestors when asked why she didn't put a school in the United States or the inner cities of Chicago? She said that our children needed to want it enough. We want iPads.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that.
Where your whole income comes off of advertising dollars, and you're crucifying the children for basically buying in to a product.
To what you selling. To what you selling.
That's advertising.
Yep.
What you selling. So I'm gonna close with that, and I just really think you need to revisit the words of Fred Hampton, and we really gotta bring people up to speed with a sound political education, because it's kind of hard to get the other DOS people in line, because they don't really have a grounded political education.
Thank you, Carla. And I think that is like the impediment, right? Like when we talk about impediments, That is the impediment. People talk about, well, I want to know, you know, I want to know that. People be like, well, and you talk about, even when you talk about, you know, I want to know what the solution is. Well, we don't know enough to build a solution yet. Even when you talk about Medicaid expansion, part of the reason that there's an impediment to that is because the immigration issue. People look at like the limitation on who's going to have access to that resource. And it's not just black and white people having access to that resource. You have other groups here, new immigrants who have access, and they're like, no, like you can't have, like, even when you talk about the burdens of infrastructure, all of that. This is all the same. You can't talk about one without the other. But this man, he's talking about his grandmother. His grandmother will be the same person. His grandmother will be the same person who would tell you, like, if she needed like some light bill money because, like, you know, because her check was late, or she needed some light bill money because she was getting your cousin out of jail, then if you ask why, well, we ain't got time to deal with that right now. We just got to deal with the fact that he locked up and I need some extra money. Well, wait a minute, but you told me you didn't want to go vote on that black stuff. But your whole life is built around black stuff. You're not having enough in your life. It's built around black stuff. You having to help somebody in your family who don't have enough is built around that black stuff. Your whole life is that. So how you going to tell me we don't have time to worry about us? We got to worry about the little migrant children. Like, no, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Didn't Beyonce back Beto or whatever his name is in the last hour? So I'm going now to I'm going to 609. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
How you doing, Yvette? My name is Daryl from New Jersey.
What's going on?
Hey, look. First of all, I have to, commend you on your broadcast, because it's hard to find somebody out here that's going to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And no matter how it may lie, and you give the availability for folks to expand on their own thought.
Oh, thank you.
But with that being said,
go ahead.
These politicians, it's all about strategy. See, when they come out of their neighborhoods, they have a black agenda and a strategy. But then they elevate to a point where the first caller, he was right. They think they've transcended into some sort of whiteness and have to change their agenda to maybe bring in a larger group. But the problem with that is, like you said, you have to have a black agenda and show how that black agenda fits in to the American agenda. So first and foremost, so the other folks that's not black respect you and respect your agenda. They don't respect us. So our agenda means nothing to them. And until we can have them respect our agenda and see that we're going to always put a face on that, no matter what kind of election, everyday life, however it may work, that agenda is going to be there. But we can now show you how that helps you and then helps everybody. And that's the only way I can see it, because like you said, they never talked about a black agenda, but that should be first and foremost. So when you go into this political situation, they already know, well, he's got this agenda on the side here that we're going to have to address somehow, some kind of way.
Yeah.
But you got to admit, we got to respect them because they're always talking about it. Plus, it adds to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's how
the thing is, caller. The thing is, caller, we can't have a black agenda with the last caller's grandmama. Like that's just what it is. The last caller's grandmama don't want to deal with it. She's one. We got to do this for the immigrants and Trump. We got to oppose Trump. Like we can't do that if you're not gonna stop and like listen to what was said and understand that we have to have a black agenda. If you just go and every time somebody lights a fire under your butt, Every time the Democratic Party lights a fire under your butt, if you're just gonna go and vote for what they said, or you're not gonna follow the process and try to figure out, well, do I need a placeholder, or can I push this politician, and what do I need in my community? If you're not gonna do that kind of work, if you're just gonna do whatever MSNBC tells you to do, then we can't do it. Like I don't think we understand that the last caller's grandmama is a representation of what stands in the way of good black politics.
That has always been that way. We've always had people that felt that way and done it that way. But we have to now come to a point where those older folks are no longer the more relevant people, and we have to put forth an agenda going forward. We can't keep saying we can't do it because we have grandma doing this. You know, grandma didn't had a whole different kind of thought. And I'm not.
But don't we have to be honest with grandmama? Don't we have to be honest with grandmama though? Don't we have to tell grandmama, like, grandmama, you don't know enough. You didn't have no pencils. You didn't have no school. You don't know like how complex America is right now.
You gotta school them, because if you don't school them, they'll never come to think independently and say, well, maybe Junior got a point. But my point is, you can't let grandma stop you from forming something that's going to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. See, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think grandma has to stop you. But I think we have to be honest with grandmama. We got to tell grandma to her face, grandmama, listen. In 1970, there was Negroes and there was mostly white people. Like black and white, that's what we have, and that's the arrangement. Life done changed, and you still running around here, and you just wrong, and you don't know what you're saying. Like, I don't think we really refuse. Well, grandma have a right to her point of view. No, she really don't. She really don't. She really don't. It's just wrong. That's like saying, well, if you say 2 + 2 is 5, you got a right to your point of view. No, you don't. Numbers is numbers. Math is math. If he don't believe in the theory of relativity, he got a right to it. No, you don't. Like, we understand that in every area of study, that nobody has a right to their own stupidity. But we don't really understand that when we talk to people in our family or whatever. I think we have to be honest with these people. And I agree with you. I think that doesn't have to stop us, but it does stop us because there's so many of them people. It's so many of them grandmamas and uncles and cousins and even young people. Well, I don't know. They never did nothing for me. I ain't got, and you just keep walking. You know, I think that's real problematic.
I agree with you. I think it's problematic also. But what I'm saying is, just like what we've been doing up to this point is living off of somebody else's agenda that has been given to us. Instead of formulating our own agenda, showing grandma and grandpa, look, grandma and grandpa, you used to do this, that, and the other at one time. But we told you about this 10 years ago. You didn't want to hear it, didn't believe it, but now 10 years moving forward, you have seen that we were talking about the right thing. So now you have to start coming around and think a different way. You have to you can't disrespect the older folks because then they have a problem. But if you show them how they are wrong in a way they can handle it, eventually they will understand your way of thinking, and you can change some minds.
I think you're giving these old people too much credit. But I thank you for calling in, Carl. I appreciate you, and you a good grandson, I'm sure. But I think you just gotta tell them. You have to just tell them, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I think you just gotta, because grandmama is dishonest. Let's just call it what it is. Like, we don't want to call it what it is. Grandmama is dishonest about her life. She's dishonest about my life. She's dishonest about black life. So, how do you, I mean, and these, I don't know how we do it without understanding that. Like, when you look at what we talked about in terms of Stacey Abrams and the votes, like, when we go back to this chart, like, what you have to understand is that what we're talking about is each tenth of a vote is 4,000. Each tenth is 4,000 votes, and it's your cousin and brother who didn't vote. And so when you talk about your mama not having Medicaid and she could apply for it if it was available, then you're talking about them. Understand that you're talking about them. You're talking about what they didn't do. Don't make it just about politics. You're talking about, this is 4,000 and a lot of votes. And we're talking about whether or not Stacey Abrams can get in this and have another shot at it. Understand that's them. You should be looking at them if Medicaid expansion is something that you need. And in Black life, I don't know anybody who doesn't know somebody who could use that, right? It's not the transformative politic that changes our wealth position, but it keeps your grandmama, it keeps, or whoever in your life needs Medicaid, it keeps them alive. There are levels to this thing. There are levels. And we have to understand that too. We have to understand all of it. And we have to understand how we've been taken advantage of. Like if you look at this chart real quick for me. This is a chart. And let me bring up the first part real big. Hold on. I always hit some stuff I ain't supposed to hit. But it's more democratic versus less democratic. And so you can see it clear before I make it smaller. Black, Latino, Asian, white. And it's funny how in the Democratic Party, all paint us as these groups are all the same, right? These groups are all the same. But look at how far over more democratic we are, as opposed to all the other groups. Latinos squiggling over to the right, Asians squiggling over, and it has the timeline all the way down to 2018. And it just shows you, like, we have been staunchly in the Democratic corner, but we all get treated as people of color. That's just it. Just carte blanche. And what you get is listen, you don't I'm not telling you to berate or dog people who didn't vote. We have to convince them to vote. I'm not saying I think you go about it the wrong way when you be just like, I'm gonna tell you and your ancestors died. No, that's not. No. You have to you have to be willing to make a specific case for a specific election, not just even in general. A specific election. Then you have to articulate, you have to reimagine. Okay, let's talk about what really is possible. Let's talk about what really is possible down the line. Let's talk about what we need. Let's talk about our black agenda. Let's talk about how we have to rearrange some of these solidarity agreements that we have. You have to not only just tell people to vote, which is what older people love to do. Just you gotta go. No, we have to do this differently. Politics is supposed to be nimble. It's not supposed to be something. I said this last show. Politics is not supposed to be something where you show up to vote and that's it. You do a lot of work before the vote in terms of political education. After the vote, you still do political education, but it's also an accountability era. It's phases to this thing, right? And there's so much, like, voting is like so. It's a part. But it's not even like, I don't even think it's half of the work that you do in terms of your political engagement in this country. And you have to be willing to understand why people don't vote. Listen. I understand why people are disaffected. I'm trying to make a case how you need this stuff in your family. But I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm not trying to say they're not impediment, structural, and otherwise you doing what you need to do. Let's have a conversation. I'm not going to play that old people game where they just, you ain't nothing. I got time today and I'm going to tell you. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to tell you what it is and what the repercussions are. And the repercussions are different in every locality, every state, but there are some things that are national. And Medicaid expansion is something that is national. And the one thing that kind of got me to really like, okay, I got to do this. And I'm not even on that. I'm not on Medicaid, but I know my people who need it, so I have to. I feel a responsibility to, like, okay, got to do this. I feel a responsibility right now in this particular era, not the Obama era or whatever necessarily, but to have a buffer, right? I would have preferred Medicare for all. I would have preferred something better than what Obama proposed in terms of this Heritage Foundation, plan. But that's where we are. Like, I have my own political imagination, and I also have where we are and what I have to deal with in this moment right now in time. It is what it is. So I'm going to my next call. I am going to 475. 475, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how you doing? It's Terry from Atlanta.
What's going on?
What's happening? Hey, Breaker Brown family. I just wanted to, I want to say I appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you.
And on the scene and behind the scenes. You're a great one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. First, I want to preface this by saying that we've only had the ability to vote for 54 years. All right?
Yep.
So our group is sheep. We don't want to say that, and we want to talk around it, but our group is sheep because they're politically uneducated. The only way that we're going to be able to leverage power as a group is to create either a new political party or a new political organization. That's the only way. And then we're going to have to use that political organization to herd our people onto specific policies and onto specific candidates on each election, each and every time. That's the only way it's going to work, because they're too scattered to not have that central thought process. We need to have a CIA of black politics.
So they can't do it on their own. They can't do it on their own. They need some help.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And another thing I want to talk about was the fact that it's a question. Why do you think white people love Tupac so much?
I don't know. I didn't even know they did. I don't know.
Well, white people, of course, they got classes in schools for him, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
They love him. Yeah, they love him. But the reason they love Tupac so much, the reason they love people like Shaft and Foxy Brown, these people were unapologetically black. They didn't try to act like white people. They didn't try to mimic white people. They didn't try to get up and sound extra proper just to fit in. They were black. They wanted you to know they were black. It's just like, you get more respect by being yourself. That's what people always say, right?
Yeah.
So when white people see a black person up there talking like he, the Duke of Earl, they know that he's not acting like himself. He's just mimicking them. So he's not to be trusted properly.
An imposter.
An imposter. He's not himself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he would never get respected, and he would never probably be elected, no matter who or she that person is. You see what I'm saying? Because they won't respect him. So, but the only thing, and we went over, you said a statement a couple of shows ago that I heard, and I think we just glossed over it, and I want to go back to it.
Okay.
You said the NAACP put out you said it was an essay for why black people didn't need reparations.
Oh no, I said Lovey actually wrote. She wrote. Yeah, they rewarded her with some kind of scholarship over that. Yeah.
That was on her personal essay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but her personal essay about black people not needing reparations won the NAACP grant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Right after you said that, we supposed to win to burn that place down to the ground. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're going to have to start looking at history. That's just the way it is. Who created the NAACP and for what reason?
I hear you, Carl. I mean, they did a lot of good work, but I hear you. It's some problematic. Urban League, there's some problematic politics there. I agree. But I try to salvage what we can.
Involved. So that's why we have to create our own organization, because it's so many problematic policies and obviously directions that these different organizations are going in with using our name. So we're going to have to bring it back home in some way, shape, or form. If we don't, we're lost. It's over. If we don't create some type of central place for black people to have to be able to go to and look at our specific policies in different states. Maybe I need to create it. But if we don't do that, our black people are going to be lost, because they don't have enough time to get a political education. Most of these people working 2 or 3 jobs, man.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
there are impediments to political education.
They got to be able to get it on the fly. That's just my opinion, and everybody got one.
No, I appreciate you, Carla. I appreciate you.
That way, and plus, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said I appreciate you. Go. I'm not your last word. I'm sorry.
I know you gotta get to the next caller, but and plus, doing that, we can foster and grow our own political leaders.
Yeah, from the grassroots. Cause you can't have no. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate you calling in. Part of the problem, what we have now, is that we don't have enough homegrown black leaders. Right? We have a few elected officials, and we have some people who basically get set up by MSNBC or CNN, and they want to walk around. And you need people who, like, people in the community have vouched for and said, I support this person. This who I'm riding with. I'm riding with this person. And you don't see that. The fact that the Congressional Black Caucus went out against a black candidate and then she still won lets you know ain't nobody riding with you, right? And you have to have, whether you are a political leader who becomes a politician or whether you are an activist or whatever you want to do, you have to have, what do I always say, fam? I have to say you have to have wind at your back. When people say, Yvette, why didn't you do X, Y? I ain't got enough wind at my back. 50,000 ain't enough wind at the back. You have to be able to control. People have to know, like, well, she leads a whole lot of people. We need to really rethink this thing. Like, you have to be able to get people to back down. And since you don't have any wealth, the only way you can do that, with no wealth, the only way you can do that is to the only way you can do that is by having people. And you have to be nimble. Like when I talk to you about Medicaid, I'm not just talking. Like Medicaid, let me just read something. Medicaid provides a broad level of health insurance coverage, including doctor's visits, hospitals, expenses, nursing home care, home health care, and the like. Medicaid also covers long-term care costs both in a nursing home and at-home care. Medicare does not. Well, that's Medicare, not Medicaid. But these are all government programs. These are all government programs. One's a retirement program based on your pension, kind of like a pension program. And Medicaid is kind of like a poverty program, right? Or if you're below, that you can go and you can see a doctor even if you ain't, you fall below a certain threshold. We got Medicaid expansion that we've been talking about, right? But Medicare is a program for your elderly grandmama. Medicaid, your sister don't got no money or whatever. She got laid off. All of this stuff. Like, how are you going to pay for it? So when people tell me, I've said this before, I don't want to deal with government. I don't need it. Like, you need to be able to go and pay that in cash then. Like your sister who has a kid and she got laid off from the chicken factory or whatever, and now she's on Medicaid. And or she can't access Medicaid because she's in a state that won't expand it. So, it is what it is. So I'm going to my next call now. I am going to let me see. I'm going to 586. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Greetings, Yvette. This is Leona.
Hey, Leona.
I'm calling from Michigan. Hi.
What's going on?
Listen, a couple quick questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
Back in 1972, Gary, Indiana, there was a national black political convention. You familiar with that?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay, you've heard of it. Okay. There's also a documentary film about it.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's the only film record of that event. You can get it at WilliamGreaves.com.
Okay.
Greaves. He's a prolific filmmaker, deceased now. But anyway, at that convention, I was watching the highlights myself. In fact, I was part of a group that helped that documentary get shown at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit. Now, in that film, Jesse Jackson is featured, along with Dick Gregory, Coretta Scott King, Mayor Richard Hatcher, Mary Baraka, Congressman Charles Diggs, a whole list of people. Political leaders, activists, artists, broad spectrum of political thought. And it was narrated by Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte.
Oh, wow.
Now, yeah, but one thing that hit me, that was a 30-year-old Jackson back then. That brother was talking about reparations. My question, have you heard Reverend Jackson talk about reparations lately?
No. No, I have not.
I hadn't either. I just wanted to double check. Okay, so I guess that's all I had. I heard you talk about a political agenda, a black political agenda. That was something we had in mind when we launched this film showing and panel discussion. It was moving toward a black political agenda again. For whatever, I don't know, for whatever that's worth. So I just thought I'd add my 2 cents tonight, and I thank you for taking my call.
No problem. I appreciate you calling in. I think what happened with our group is that we got convinced that in order to kind of maintain power, that we had to build a bunch of coalitions with a bunch of different people. and like Medicaid, reparations ain't never gonna happen. So we just gotta build with every brown group that comes. We just gotta pull them under the wing of the Democratic Party, as opposed to like getting what's due, as opposed to like getting what's owed. And I think somewhere along the lines we kind of got convinced that was the solution. And I think what we're facing now is the realization that was that solution of what we thought didn't work. And it's fine to try something. I would have never tried that, but you never know back then what you would have tried. Like, I don't like to like do that, but you have to be able to pivot when it doesn't work and kind of realize this doesn't work. Let's move to something else. And I think we're far past the time to actually pivot in a different direction. And so I'm going to 630. 630, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Ro from Illinois.
Hey, what's going on?
And forgive me ahead of time because I get nervous, so if I start sounding like a nervous wreck, just y'all
take your time. We family.
I had two things to say, like with this midterm election, and it points on a lot of things that you talk about in many of your shows, immigration, Obama, a lot. So they are going to try to spin, in my opinion, they're going to try to spin this Stacey Abrams thing. I think she's going to lose. And when she loses, they're going to spin it as like a voter suppression thing that, black people weren't able to vote, yada, yada, yada. But what I think people are not looking at is like the Tea Party way back, whenever it was, I can't remember what year. But there is a growing number of black people who not necessarily are going to vote Republican, but they are disillusioned with the Democratic Party, and they're not vocal about it. They're not going to bash Obama. I know you talk a lot about black people thinking Obama's a savior, and I agree with that. But I think that people do realize what happened under Obama, that he didn't do anything, and they're not really messing with the Democrats now. And if the Democrats are not careful, what they're going to see in 2020, because at this point Trump is going to get reelected, but if they're not careful, they will find a huge surge in black people that are going to vote Republican. I've seen it already on social media. People like, I voted R straight down for the first time. And I know people talk about Candace Owens and they make fun of Brexit. And I think that she's misguided because she's basically being used as by the Republicans. And I think us being either way to the extreme is really bad. However, that movement is a real movement. Everybody might not be identifying as Brexit, but there are black people, and there's a growing number of black people that are breaking from the Democrats. So we have an opportunity here. I don't know if we should build a new coalition or whatever, but we do have leverage at this point because the Democrat strategies, getting Oprah, Obama, all of that, it's not working. Look at the states, Florida, Texas. All the Democrats go DACA, 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 like you're saying. Those are DACA states, and they lost in those big races. That I looked at one map, and they had like the Democratic strong areas. They were all along the border. The rest of the state was basically red. So that tells you right there, like you were saying about the Latinos, all of them are not identifying, but they're identifying as white, a lot of them, because they do come here. They come from higher social statuses. They don't want to be affiliated with the illegal immigrants either. So it's the DACA thing's not working for them. It's us, and I do believe it has to do with the historic mistreatment that we've gotten. This is a battle at the end of the day between white Americans who were the slave owners and us, the descendants. That is what this is going to hinge on. If Trump gets in for 2020, we're going to go totally off a cliff. But black people right now, we have leverage. We need to work on that. And another thing, and I'm going to wrap up because I don't want to take up too much time, but with the census in 2020, I do think that it's good that they're trying to make it so that you can identify by ethnicity and everything. I think that'll be helpful for us. However, we have to have our stuff together as a group, because if we don't play this right, what's going to happen, like I'm going to go back to what you were saying earlier, how these Latinos and all these other immigrants become white. That is how they keep white people on top, because white people's numbers are really dwindling. They need immigrants to come in here to get in a better social status, so they will identify as white, and that keeps the white percentages high. Even in reality, though, white people, it's dwindling. We are browning. But if you got immigrants that are identifying as white, that keeps the percentage high. And white people, they're not going to treat them like whites. They're not going to treat them like people with European background. They're going to treat them like immigrants. They don't realize that white people do. White people are playing a good game. But we got to be smart. We got to see where they're going, because if we do self-identify as black DOS or whatever we want to call it, that's going to lower the black number. And if we don't play that right, they're going to use that lower percentage to deny us stuff, because they're going to say we don't have the big numbers like we used to. So we have to really get our stuff together if we're going to do that. And
okay.
Thanks for listening to me.
No
That's all I
problem.
got to say.
No problem, Carla. You did great. You did great. I appreciate it. I'm gonna reply to you. I think part of the problem is, I said this before, I think it's political imagination. There's this belief, and I understand that America flies on two wings, all that. Like, I've talked about that. America's a plane that flies with two wings, Democrat and Republican, even though I love to build a third way, and I've been supportive a lot of times of a third way, in terms of a third party. But I think in terms of what we have to do is at this point in what we do, we have to find our own kind of third way within the framework that is built for us. So we can't just listen. If this isn't even the Republican Party of a few years ago where they were offering, and I don't even have I don't call black Republicans names, and some of them actually do get on and do some real ridiculous Candace Owens stuff, but that's not what I'm into. My whole thing, though, in terms of support, it has to be based on something fundamental and tangible, like in terms of what we need in terms of a community. And the only reason we went with Obama was because, the boomers had this vacuous identity politics that we're kind of now finally divorcing ourselves from. Obama didn't say anything radical, but everybody told us no, he really gonna do it, and he gonna just wait, and that's just a stupid way to do politics. You don't do politics based on that. You get people on the record. And you can't do this whole, we got to stop this whole, well, he can't say he going to do nothing for us because white people is listening. You got to be quiet. Well, if that's the case, then I don't need you. If you can't, and then we got to we have to deal with the problem that we have with the rest of America. If you want everybody to get help but us, because what that really means is that when they get in there, they're going to help everybody but us too, because it's just the easiest way to go. And politicians always take the easiest route out. You got to make them commit on paper early on. If it don't work out for them, it don't work out for them. That's your political career. It ain't mine. I don't care about you. You're just another politician. You come and you go. You're not special. I'm not related to you. You're not family. You ain't even come from the Black and Brown community. I don't care. We got to see politicians like that, though. We have to hit, having no money made our kids like these grifters who would just go and do anything at any amount of time. Just kind of go and prostitute themselves, whether it be for Democrats or Republicans, because they ain't got no money. And they just want to be in these white pictures, and they want to feel a certain way. That's what we have, and that's what our politics, racism, as well as our politics, is kind of created. And that's what we're left with, and that's what we have to deal with. And it's not just grifters on one side. Like Candace Owens, that's some awful stuff. That's some real awful stuff, the way she just over-grifted Kanye and all this stuff. But we just can't, you just can't get on TV too and kind of parrot Democratic talking points as an American DOS person. That's a disservice too. It's one thing to to say what I said, kind of grudgingly, we have to, this is we have to put a placeholder in place. Then to get on here cheery and act like that Democratic politics is black politics. No, it's not. And if it is, we got an even bigger problem. And so I'm going to my last call now. I am going to 609. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Mike from Jersey.
What's going on? A lot of Jersey tonight.
Yeah, I know. One of the reasons races. I called in. Everybody calling about that Senate race.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm upset with my people.
Y'all feelings about that, boy.
Bob Menendez is totally corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I got all these Obama stands on my timeline talking about, yeah, he won. Meanwhile, Menendez and Obama didn't even get along. Obama anti-Semite after that Iran deal. So it's like I'm just confused. So it was kind of interesting. One of the reasons I called, because all the Jersey callers, but also the last caller too, talking about immigration and how backwards our whole community is. If you go down your timeline, and it seems like all black people are for immigration, but I was reading a Pew Research poll last week that came out.
Okay.
And they polled Hispanics. Don't you know 48% of Hispanics polled say there's the right amount of immigrants in the country today? 48% said the right amount. 25% said there's too many.
Oh my.
Only 14% of Hispanics said there's not enough immigrants in the country right now. 14%. But if you do a poll of black people, we'd be at 60-70% open borders.
Yep.
Our politics is destroyed right now. And this is sad. That's one of the reasons I wanted to call. Thank you, because this is an important program that you do.
I appreciate it.
Twice a week live.
Thank you, fam.
This is the DOS timeline.
Hey, I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate it. And you know what? You exactly right. And see, the thing is, you want to know something else too? I haven't seen Latinos or anybody. They don't get bullied by other people for being against it. It's just what it is. It's a given. Like I get a right to like have this opinion in terms of I'm an American and I get the right to shut the gate after I got here. Okay, I get the right to say all of this stuff from America. I came here to get all this American stuff, and I keep giving it away to everybody else. I get a right to do that. Like, and we really don't understand as American DOS that what we're really doing is not beneficial to immigrants. If you really wanted to help immigrants, you would deal with American foreign policy. Ain't nobody really dealing with that. This is helpful to American capital holders. This is helpful to people with money who don't have to compete against immigrants. It's great for people who can use immigrant labor, cheap immigrant labor. It's awful for the group that has to compete with them, and that's most of the times that's us. We're just helping the richest people in America. You're not helping yourself. I keep asking people, like, how does it help you? Like, tell me how it helps you. And I've been asking people that for a long time, and nobody can really give me an answer. And for me, that's a problem. If you can't give me an answer, you've reached a conclusion, and you can't give me an answer, I just have a problem with that. You should be able to articulate to me why immigration is good for American DOS America. And nobody can do that for me, because it ain't. It just depresses wages, it floods the low wage, and we are on the bottom of the bottom, and it floods our community with a bunch of vulnerable low wage labor. That's the last thing you need in a country with dwindling economic opportunities and dwindling jobs. You're just building your own coffin. Why would you do that? So, Breaking Brown fam, we have reached that time. If I did not get to your call today, hopefully next time when we have this conversation, we'll be able to get to the calls and have the conversation. Until that time, ladies and gentlemen, Breaking Brown family, please finish your libation before you go to bed. And we will talk again soon. Please like, please subscribe, please share. If you are so inclined, I appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon, fam.